I have my pre-gessoed file folder. I've put a bag in so I don't get any paint on the inside or on the back. If you have a canvas, you can look to see if it's already been primed. If it has, I normally put another coat on just to make it a little smoother so you're not having trouble filling in with all that texture from the canvas. But I leave that up to you. These are the colors we'll be using today. So we have a red, a cadmium yellow, cream or buff, raw sienna, raw umber, white, and this one is a Americana Wedgwood Blue. You can use whatever blue you've got. It doesn't really matter. I just picked this one. You could use ultramarine. If you don't have a Wedgwood Blue, you could also put just a tad of red in it and then a little bit of either black and mix it up. So you want to get your palette ready and have another palette for mixing if you're doing any mixes. I have my water ready at the side here, and I have some brushes out. I have a flat. This is a 1/2 inch, number 12 if you're looking for the number, and it's a chisel. I also have a deerfoot stippler, and they, as you can see, they're shaped like a deerfoot. And this is quarter, so 1/4 inch. You may need a small round if you have one, a number 2 or 3, depending. Okay, so what I want you to do is we're going to paint the background first. Like all acrylic paintings, most you do the background and work your way to the front. Being that this is just a basic color, there's no scenery behind there, it's just the blue. So I want you to take your brush. I have actually a larger brush here, a wash brush or a shader brush, something big if you're using a large surface, canvas, what have you. And this is 1 inch. And I'm just going to take this color and put it on. You want a good coat. You don't want to see any brush marks, so you may have to give it 2 coats. So just put it on. If you're doing it on a canvas, you might need to really scrub it. If you're doing it on a canvas, probably have to use a little bit of a stiffer brush just so that you can get down into that texture. All right, now I'm going to take this stencil that I have here. This is the Crafter's Workshop number 164. And I'm just going to put a few snowflakes, slightly lighter blue. So you want to take some of that blue that you just put on, and I want you to lighten that with a little bit of white. Now I don't want a huge difference in the shade, just slightly. So just mix some there, and then use your sponge and just start sponging in here and there. Now remember, we're going to be putting the fence in, so you don't have to do on the bottom part of this. Okay, and then maybe one going off the side. And they can be different shades. You don't have to use, you know, the real dark. It can be different shades. And there's my snowflakes. Okay. Now you want to dry that. We want to take our pattern. So you've drawn out your pattern. All right, so now we're going to take our pattern and we're going to place these little birds kind of in the center. And I want you to take a white tracing paper. If you don't have a white, you can always take some chalk or pastel and put it on the back of this, and then it will trace when you put it down. So take a pencil. You don't want something very sharp or it's going to go through. And I want you to trace the birds and the fence where it's going to be. Now don't worry about the scarves just yet, because once we start putting the fur in, it's probably going to get covered. So we'll put the little scarf on those two birds once we have the birds finished. Okay, so there's my birds. That's where they're going to sit. So we have raw umber, raw sienna. So first, I think we're going to do some raw umber. And we're just going to slap it on, and you can mix it with, so you have a little bit of both on my brush. And I want it to be streaky in color. So you just want to go up and down. Try and keep your strokes up and down. Don't go across. And it can be on thick. If there's a little blue showing through it, don't worry too much about it, because it's dark enough that it's not going to hurt the painting. Mix some white with it, or that tan color. You want it all uneven. You don't want to keep brushing over it too, to stop it from being streaky. You want it streaky. Now, if you find you have mixed it too much, don't worry a lot about it. We can always fix that. It's easy enough to fix, but it's kind of nice to have those streaks in it when you're doing this. So mine's on fairly thick. I think I'm going to put a little bit more white in there, just here and there. Just mix some areas that are a little bit okay. You want to get some up there too. All right. You see how streaky it is? That's what you want. Now I want you to dry it. All right. Now what we want to do is take a round brush. So I have a round brush here. This is, I believe, a number 2. Okay, so now I forgot to put some black. So I want some Ebony Black by Americana. Any black will do. And I want you to take that and I want you to put a line down. If it's a little bit streaky, that's good. So wherever, I think I had 3 lines in here. And they can be a little bit wonky. That's fine. This is an old fence. Okay. Now I want you to also take either your big brush that you used for gessoing. This is a 1-inch and it's fairly soft. So I want you to put a little bit of that umber, but I want it to be a little bit watery. So we're going to put a slight glaze over top of this. Just here and there. And then I want you to dry that. Right. This is all about layers for the wood. The more layers, the more detailed it'll look, the more depth and realistic it'll look. So if you're finding it's too dark, you can do the same thing with a lighter color. So if I take that big brush again and take some of that cream color, mix it with that raw sienna, and you want it fairly wet, and just throw some light areas in, and you want streaking. So if you see how it's streaked? That's what you want. Okay, now I'm going to bring you in. You can use either a bristle brush like this one. This is just, you know, the ones you get in Home Depot, or I think even dollar store would have them. The scruffier the better. And I want you to take that black and a little bit of that umber, and I want you to just put it on the edge of your brush. See, not much. See how the hairs are kind of splayed apart? That's what you want. And then I want you to take your brush and just lightly go down it. You want, this is dry brushing, so you don't want a lot of detail, just here and there. can also just put a few dots in. Okay. See how it's rough looking? That's what you want. So now once you have that done, the top will be a little bit darker. I want you to take that same brush that had the bristles, so you want a rough edge to this, so I want you to take that brush, again, take some of that umber and the black, mix it together. So you want a fairly dark color. And then just at the top, I want you to just dab. You have a little bit more paint on your brush this time. And just pat along the top. Just here and there. So you kind of want a little bit of a rougher edge on the top. If you get any on the blue, you can just take a wet cloth or a baby wipe and wipe it off. Round brush. We want to just take that dark color again, and then just in certain sections, add a little bit more darkness to the crevices that are in here. Especially up here. And you can actually make it look like the boards are a little farther apart on the top. Sometimes that looks cool. Now we're going to do the birds. So the birds are just a grayish color with an umber head, basically. But the trick for doing this is that you want a umber background base coat on these. So you can either take a flat brush or the round brush, whatever you find easier. And I want you to take some of that umber color and just put a base coat on the inside of that head. And with the edge of your brush, you can just flick out on the edges so it looks a little fuzzier. You don't want a smooth top line for the feathers. You want it kind of ruffled looking. And you can do that for all the heads. You can put the eyes in again if you feel it's easier, or paint around them. It's up to you. I think I'm just going to paint over them and then I'll just put them in again. I just keep the beak so I know where it is. That's big enough. And remember, these guys have scarves on anyways, so if you go too far down, that's fine. It'll be covered with the scarf anyways, so don't worry too much about how far down to go. Okay? Now with the body, there is a darkness underneath all these feathers. So what I want you to do is take that umber, and with that, a little bit of that black, and then you take your white and make a kind of a grayish color. And we can work with this one color. You want a fair amount because we're going to be using this color to lighten it and darken it. So this part here that's fairly dark, I want you to fill in the bodies. You can leave a little line so you know where the separation of the bodies are of all of them if you want, or you can just put the pattern back in. And integrate it into the umber that's above. And when I'm doing this, I tend to go in the direction that the bird feathers would be going in. So I'm just taking my brush and tapping in where the direction would be. Now I know there's a scarf on this guy, so I'm not too worried about going into this part here. So I'm just using the side of my brush and sweeping it out. That way I get that kind of feathery look. You can also use your ridge brush or rake brush if you have one. So I'm just using the same color and filling it in. In between these guys, there's a little bit of shadowing taking effect. So I want you to take some more of that raw umber. So the raw umber is this one here. Just put some on your brush. And I just want on the side of your brush, not the side, I want you to take the brush and sweep it into that other guy, just along half the body. You want it fairly dark because there's quite a bit of shadow in there. And the same goes for this one here. So it gets about halfway down. Shadow in here. So you just want to take your brush and shadow that area too. You can add a little bit of black if you find it's too light. So mix the black with that brown. I think I'll put a little bit of black in there. Now I'm going to take my rake brush or ridge brush, whatever you guys have. And this one is a 1/4 inch Simply Simmons. And I'm going to take that mix, this mix that we did, and a little bit lighter. This is the one we put on the base coat. So we want a little lighter. So we're going to go into this shade here. And then again, you're going to start doing the feathers. So the feathers, down the center of the bodies would be going kind of out like this. So just don't cover up all of the dark gray though, just a bit. It's kind of like doing those pines that we did. So just a light touch. And I want you to go over the feet a little bit. And then take it and start doing along the outer side. Just overlapping that color that you put on for the shadowing. If you find you're having trouble, don't worry. You can either wipe it off before it dries or put another coat of that dark gray on and try again. You might want to try using a spare piece of paper before you do this. Practice. I want to do the same thing for this guy here. So his feathers would be a little bit out towards the other guy, the center bird, along the left side. And then the front of his chest here would just slightly be coming out. Not a lot though. And again, don't cover up all of that dark gray. If you find you've done that, covered it up too much, you can always put dark gray back into it again. And then I just keep putting it on. This guy. Short strokes. Now you can take and go a little bit lighter again. So I'm going to take a little bit of this again, and this time I'm going to make it lighter. And go over it again. Now we want to take some more of this, make it even lighter. And just in the top part, now we're going to do the tops of his head. And with this, it's just the umber that we use. So we use this umber color. So you want that. And then just a bit. So we want to make a little bit of a lighter umber shade. And then we're just going to go around the top part of his head. Might need a little bit more. You want it fairly watery. And around his eye, where his eye would be, his cheek. Just around the face, where his eyes would be. You can put his eyes in if you find it easier. And then this guy. So light, very lightly. Now with your brush, I want you to take the black and put in the eyes. So the eye for this guy was right about there. Just put a small dab in there. And this guy, his eyes were about there. You can take a brush or a marker if you find it too difficult. Just use one of these fine tip pen brushes and put his eyes in. And then this guy's eye right about here. Now with a gray marker, you want to be able to put a ring around the eye. And with another brush, I want you to take either orange or this. So you mix some of this with your, and make it orange. And we'll put in his beak. Don't want it real bright. And with that black marker again, I'm just going to go around with your brush again. A little bit of that sienna with the umber. And just go under there. Go under the beak. And with this, the rake, I want you to take that color again, that light color, with some of this and just lightly go around the edge of his eye. I'm just dabbing. And then just under here. Like that. On his cheek. That. White marker. Or a pen. And I want you to just put a speck. And then just a little speck on the nose, right, like so. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to use some and I'm going to make the feet. And they're just, you just see them slightly. You don't see a lot of it, just slightly. So you don't have to worry about making the correct little feet. Now we'll do the scarf. So you can either take a marker, and he has quite a big scarf that goes all along there. And this guy has a big scarf that goes on here. And I just want you to take your brush and with some, and just paint in that area with that white. Okay, so with a very small number 4 shader, I want you to take some of that red, a little bit of white, some curves, like that. And with a little bit of this blue, and some yellow, make a green. And do the same thing. If you have Poscas, you can use Poscas. And with this, I want to take just a smidge on on the just underneath here. We want to put a shadow. And just shadow in this area here with a little bit. We don't want it really bright in there. And then I'm going to shadow the top parts of his feet. Okay, and then I'm going to take this again. And I'm going to take that. And just going to put some of these marks back in. I'm going to put some snow on the bottom here. So what I want you to do is take your pen and I'm just going to have some snow along the bottom here. So you can just have it however you want. And I want you to take this number of Royal 1/4 inch. Get some of that start pouncing. and then just fit in here. And then I'm just going to put some in here. Now what I want you to do is take this back out and then take your jelly roll. I don't know if you can see it. And I start tracing all around. All right, now, so I've put all these in with the Gelli roll pen. Now I want to take a bristle brush with some white. And if you wanna, you can take some of those up if you find there's some big splats. And there we are.